Hi guys, in-depth movie highlights tapping in with another one. Before we start, warning. Spoilers ahead. Today we are reviewing a fresh horror and thriller fiction movie with an unexpected plot twist, called Antidote. The movie starts with a scene of a man hanging himself in a building. There is a married couple named Sharon and Costas. Sharon wakes up and says to her husband that her stomach suddenly hurts. They immediately go to the hospital with their child. There, the doctor says that she has acute appendicitis and her appendix has ruptured. The doctor also schedules an emergency operation to be performed on that day. When the operation is about to start, she is seen in a different place with her hands tied to the bed. After that, a doctor named Aaron Hellenbach comes to the room and straightaway opens the handcuffs. Then she inquires about her whereabouts now, and the doctor informs her that she has complications with her surgery, causing her to experience anxiety. He says that he will give some medicines to treat her illness, and then leaves her alone. She sees that her surgical scar on her stomach has suddenly healed. The doctor comes back to her room and Sharon asks him why the surgical scar on her stomach is healed so quickly. He says that they have an unusual treatment method in this place. When he gives the medicine, Sharon refuses it and runs out of the room. Outside, she finds another doctor and wants to borrow the doctor's phone for a call, but the doctor wants to arrest her instead. In the end, she decides to enter another room that has another patient in it. As she asks for the exit, the patient states that she must be new to this place. Finally, the doctor is able to catch her and gives her a sedative. Back in Sharon's room, she tells Aaron that her family will look for her, but then he replies that no one will look for her. Then the doctor locks her in the room and then she sees a patient whose eyes were gouged out. Later, she hears a knock from someone in the next room. She receives a message through a hole in the wall from someone named Everett. She replies to the message by asking what kind of hospital they are currently living in, and she is shocked to get the answer that it isn't a hospital. Shortly after, she hears Everett screaming for help and Aaron suddenly re-enters her room and asks her about the past that she deeply regrets. She lies, saying that she has nothing to regret, but the doctor tells her not to lie. He also finds the conversation between her and Everett. He then invites her to check her vital signs. In the hallway, he informs her that she is allowed to socialize with other patients, except hanging around the place. In another room, she meets Cassandra, then a former criminal, Lester, sociopath, Rezone, and finally a lawyer, Everett, the man next to her room. Sharon asks Everett what happened last night, and then he tells her that the doctors cut his tongue, but after a while, it grew back to normal. Cassandra also adds that this place is a trial ground, where she was just burned alive. A few moments later, the alarm sounded and they immediately returned to their respective rooms. The scene then moves to Sharon's past as she stares at a grave. Later, she sees a patient being taken by the doctors forcibly and Everett swiftly comes into her room. He tells her that they are some kind of guinea pigs for a program, and Aaron tells him that they can get out of the place at most 3 months from now. The patient who had been brought by the doctor has returned, and out of curiosity, she chooses to enter his room. She asks what has been done to him and he tells her that the doctors have castrated him. Aaron goes to his room and injects the recovery serum on him and tells Sharon that the castration he went through was the result of his own behavior earlier. Soon, Sharon desperately persuades Everett to run away from the place, but he refuses and tells her to carry out her treatment at all times. Finally, she decides to go alone, and in the hallway, she finds someone who is banging his head against the wall continuously in a room. Unfortunately, Aaron finds her and takes her back to his room. He shows a picture of the man who hanged himself at the beginning of the film. He asks her to explain about that person. It turns out that the man is Nico and he was a piano tuner. According to her statement, they used to be a couple and he died by hanging himself. 10 pounds of drugs were also found on his piano. Aaron says that he tries to help her, but he thinks that she's still not ready with everything. Sharon then sneaks out again, and she sees Nico, who suddenly comes out of her room. She follows him and finds his piano and the rope used to hang himself in a room. She is taken by another doctor and ends up being tortured with her legs cut off. Unexpectedly, later Aaron stitches her leg back after that incident and her leg is immediately able to move again. It's all caused by a serum, called BMS. He also says that the way things work in this place is like that if she keeps trying to escape. Back to Sharon's past, when she met her husband, who turned out to be a detective who was investigating her ex's suicide. Then she's approached by Rezone, who wants to talk to her, but she decides to leave him alone and goes to Everett's room. She tells him that she met her ex-boyfriend who had died 10 years ago. Everett, who hears about this, is immediately shocked and goes to Aaron's room instantly to make sure when he can get out of the place, even though in this place there are also people who have lived for 10 years. Aaron asks him to meet with the management, but he is brought back by the doctors to have his tongue cut again. In Sharon's past, her husband asked her about the connection between Nico and the drugs found, but she lied that she didn't know anything about it. Later, she follows a staff working in that place and she accidentally sees a door that looks like a garden on the outside. Unfortunately, it is just her hallucination, and in the end, she is found again by Erin. Back to her past again, the detective visits her house and informs her that Nico's suicide case has been closed, with Nico did commit suicide. Later on, she visits Cassandra's room and asks her to run away from the place, but then Erin comes and tells her to go back to her room. She uses the opportunity to intentionally drop herself on Erin's body and stealthily takes his key. The opportunity gets even better when another doctor informs him that there is a patient having seizures. Sharon shows Cassandra the key she has obtained and they head straight for Erin's room to look for a map of the place. They disguise themselves as doctors to walk down the hall, but unluckily a doctor is aware of their existence and immediately surrounds them. Cassandra threatens them with a knife but ends up cutting her own throat with the knife, giving Sharon time to escape. Lester quietly follows her from behind. When Lester sneaks to cut her from behind, suddenly Rezone comes for help and takes her away into a safe room. Turns out he saved her because he wants to rape Sharon. Fortunately, she is able to stab him with a knife. She manages to get out and sees her past house with her ex, but then again she only hallucinates and is again tortured by the doctors, hanging herself until her neck is injured. They treat her back until she is recovered. Erin asks her again about her past, and she says that she was a drug addict, but strangely Erin still doesn't believe her for the umpteenth time. She goes to Everett's room, knowing that he died in a terrible accident. Then she sees Erin comes out from Cassandra's room and she decides to go in. Knowing from Cassandra's story of how she died, Sharon concludes that they are already dead and she thinks that the place is hell. From her past, it is known that in fact she accidentally killed Nico by slashing his neck after they were high on drugs. Later her husband confirmed it was by accident and told her to forget it. On the other hand, she intentionally made Nico's body look like he commits suicide. Soon, she goes to Erin's room, showing a book titled Dante's Inferno. The book tells the story of a man named Dante who goes to hell to see sinners being tortured and then healed only to be tormented again. But suddenly, she is brought back by someone who wants to torture her again and it turns out that person is Nico. Back then, Sharon regrets everything she has done and wants to pay for it by being left to die forever hanging in that room. Nico, who can't bear it, finally decides to release her and leads her to the way out. Erin appears to block them all of a sudden, but he gets hit by Nico. They arrive at a place between hell and life. As she walks to the end, her pulse at the hospital suddenly throbs. The real doctors are eagerly trying to save her. After that, they see the bridge connecting the two worlds formed by itself. Nico told Sharon to cross the bridge first. However, the bridge suddenly collapsed. Luckily she had time to cross into the light. Nico, who is left behind, is brought back inside by the doctors. In the end, Sharon regains consciousness in the hospital and the doctor informs her that she had just been dead for 15 seconds during the operation. Her family is happy to see her alive again. At home she checks the obituaries on the internet about all the people she has met in hell, and it turns out that everything she has experienced is real. She also gives flowers and places candles on Nico's grave in accordance with her promise to him who had helped freeing herself from the hell. Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.